You're gonna fry all your shit with Febreze.
It's behind everything. But yeah.
It took a minute, but we decided to get it back up and rolling.
We're back.
Back
we were only gone for a month and 2 weeks or something.
I actually don't remember when the last time we uploaded.
I saw it, I want to say it was November 12th or something like that.
That makes a close approximation of some kind of sense, I guess. But it does not matter because we are back now for episode... Is this episode 5?
This is technically episode 5. We shot episode 4 and then it never went out.
Never did anything with it. So this is episode 4.5 of Maybe Next Week. It's a podcast that you will most likely be seeing tomorrow in the new year of 2021. So we cleverly decided to call this episode Maybe Next Year. Oh, it's hilarious. Cue the laughing track and that drum set.
I don't
It's
have
gonna be
any
a
of
bitch
those
to go.
things.
It's gonna be a bitch to go back and put all those in because I'm going to do it.
Good for you.
2020 is finally over,
Thank fuck.
and and as far as I know, obviously it's still New Year's Eve as of recording this, so everything should go back to normal at midnight, as far as I understand.
Yeah, it's something about a magic pumpkin or something. And,
Yeah, something about a godmother
glass
and
slipper.
a stone I'm supposed to make a wish on or something like that.
Yeah.
And then boom, 2020 Prestige 1.
Ooh, don't like that.
Yeah, new game plus.
Is there a way I can hit the refresh button and maybe update the web page or?
The traffic is too big. The webpage is down.
Oh, okay. I'll just die. That's fine.
That's one of those things.
This year has just, it's taken it out of me, man.
It's taken everything.
I didn't get excited for shit this year.
There was nothing to be excited for.
I mean, that's not true. Things that we would have been happily excited for last year, like just regular holidays or like regular nice weather days or whatever. None of that. There was just, it all still happened. It just wasn't good. There was no joy this year. All of my best moments were spent on video calls, and that's just so sad. Yeah. If we never have to do this again, I'm still going to be bitter that we had to do it at all. To tell you the truth.
I keep seeing all those posts on Facebook yes, 2020 has been a terrible year, but tell me one thing you've done that you're proud of. I'm like, I got nothing for you.
I survived.
Yeah. Everyone's like, there are people, that did something great this year. It was like, oh, I got married. Me and my husband, me and my wife got our first house and all that. And that's, yeah, you should be proud of that kind of stuff. Me, on the other hand, I got nothing. I have a few people who are like, well, you did graduate college. And while I did, I feel like even that was kind of freebie given to me. Because my last semester and my summer courses were just kind of here you go. As soon as we went online for the remainder of the spring semester,
yeah.
I just clocked out. I was done. I did everything in 5 minutes and still got a perfect 100 on it because they stopped caring about grades. There was one class I got a full 100 on and should not have, but too late now. You already gave me the diploma.
Yeah, but at that rate, I think everyone was still trying to figure out how to even live in this thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. That because I've heard multiple friends tell me that their classes and their professors just got way more relaxed because of this whole thing, and it's well, yeah, it's awful that we're in this predicament. You can understand why things do go slack or relaxed or whatever because this is just awful. No one likes doing it. It's just the fucking worst.
At least it kickstarted the streaming wars. More so than it has already.
I mean, it just added a layer to them. They were already
it was already happening.
They were already
but
on
now,
this path. It's whatever. God, this year fucking sucks.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. And then now I just work constantly, and I understand. I do. Everyone's saying, you should be thankful to have a job. I am so beyond the stars thankful to be working right now. I don't think people understand that. That does not mean I have to like it.
Yeah, yes, it's great.
Nobody likes working at all.
I don't know that that's true either. I think that
sorry, 9 to 5s.
In a way, yeah, that's more accurate than no one likes working at all.
Yeah.
Because I know plenty of people who like what they do. Most of them don't work at Walmart or a similar position though. That's really the kicker. Is being in a job that you don't like particularly this year. Yeah, brutal. Just absolutely soul-tearingly brutal.
Yeah, because you have to learn how to do the job through alternative methods, pretty much. It's like you're still doing the same stuff you would be, but there's a whole added layer of extra shit you got to do for safety precautions.
And on top of it just being a depressing year, no one's got the energy, no one has any extra mojo. It's just you do what you can to get through the day at this rate. Even I have what I would consider a very easy job right now. I'm just writing from home. I set my own schedule. I set my own workload, and I still get up some mornings. I'm just shoot me! I have to do it again.
It's just the same cycle over and over and over. Yeah.
Monday, wake up, sit down to work on an article, make breakfast or lunch or whatever. Continue to work on the article. Take a break to play a game or listen to music or watch a movie. Continue to work on the article. Maybe take a nap. And then have the rest of my night free. And then wake up and do it again the next day. And the next day. And the next... So by week 2, you're just this is a never-ending Ferris wheel. I haven't been outside my house in 3 months. I just want to go. That's been the most brutal part for me is I don't particularly love leaving the house to do much anyway.
Yeah.
But going to see a movie or something, or going and sitting in a restaurant or a coffee shop. Those are always nice little things that I got to do beforehand that there has been zero of this year. And it's just
and that's the one thing I do miss because every time I would go to get food with friends, a lot of the times, even before this, most of them hate going inside to eat, so they're like, nope, we're going through the drive-thru and we're going back. I'm like, why the fuck would I do that? Anytime I go out to eat, I like going, even as a kid, my parents, naturally, they have other stuff going on, so if we go to get food, we'll go through the drive-thru, we'll bring it home. We won't eat in the restaurant or anything like that. So growing up, I was I always wanted to go in and sit down and eat because it's different. So doing that is great. If I get to spend, 2 hours in a McDonald's, sure. That's fun. So now that I have to just constantly only use the drive-thru and go, I'm all right, cool, let's go get food. So we have 5 minutes of freedom to go there and come back. It's just all right, cool, nothing changed. Just killed time, I guess.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. And plus, drive-thrus have been miserable this year as well because so many people are using them, and so all of them have just been slow and just tiresome. And, I feel for the workers as well. It's hitting them worse than it's hitting me for sure, but. There'll be nights where we're in the drive-thru at Cookout or whatever at 35 minutes, and I'm I just want to go home, please. And then I get home, and I'm I don't want to be here either, actually. Fuck.
The drive-thru lines don't bother me at all. It's the longer it keeps me out of the house. And now it's just the point where the only time I leave is when I'm going to work, so I'm cool.
Yeah, it's just been the damn worst. And it's I've tried not to let it kick my ass too much. I've found ways to entertain myself pretty well. I found even new hobbies and new interests and stuff this year, and I'm reading more books, and there's been a lot of creative getting around it a little bit, but there are some days where you just can't do anything other than think about holy hell, when is it going to be over? And this morning wasn't too bad, but just kind of thinking about it as the day has gone on, it's been in the back of my head pretty much this entire day, just being are we closer to it being normal again? Sure. Yeah, we're probably a couple steps forward. But there's also at least part of the next year is going to be lost to this as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's going to take us a while to get back to an actual semblance of normalcy, and that's draining as well. Just knowing that months are going to be lost again to it. This time there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not so dark and depressing. But just being yes, we can celebrate that this year's finally over. And then tomorrow we're going to have to face, it's not over, though. The whole thing's not done yet.
That's the thing. Shitty. The thing about it was, everyone going on about it was 2021 better not be as bad as 2020 or 2021 better not be as bad as 2020 and all that. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you guys this, but it doesn't work that way. I'm glad you're conditioned to think that a new year is something completely different, but it's all... The concept of time is created. We're just going to have to sit through it until it gets to that point. And that's what I keep thinking, every time all these movies keep getting pushed back. Black Widow got a new release date for, I think, May.
That sounds right.
And I'm just like, will we be able to actually, see that in theaters in May? I doubt it.
By May, we'll probably have theaters at least more open than they are now. Because if the vaccine's already going around, like I said, my cousin got it last week. And admittedly, she is a healthcare worker, so she should be in the front of the line to get it. But if it's already available in that capacity, by May, we'll probably see a good number of people already have the vaccine and more places taking the chance to open up and relying on that to drive more traffic. But yeah, it still is the fact that May is so far away now, but we're still talking about it in uncertain terms. Just that's it. Just you think you found a win in this whole situation, and really with the vaccine we have I know there are side effects for it, and people are having some negative reactions, but the vast majority are not, and that's really just the biggest win I can hope for right now.
Yeah, I mean, every vaccine has side effects.
Yeah, some people are having more severe reactions, though. It's starting to show small numbers of people are having intense psychosis after a while. There was the facial paralysis thing that was happening, but that seemed to be a very minor, going away after a couple of hours condition.
Right.
It's there's always a risk of that kind of stuff happening when there's a new vaccine. Whether it's a coronavirus vaccine or not, it's just when we put harmful things into our bodies, even though it's in trace amounts, it's in fightable amounts, there's always the risk that something's going to go wrong. But it's just so much better than exposing the entirety of the population to a super spreading virus. Clearly the good outweighs the bad in that situation. But everything else has just been pretty much all bad, and I'm like, dude, I need good news at some point. And sure, the new year maybe isn't the best news. It's not going to end things, but it definitely feels like a good stopgap to measure our throughness with this, how done it is.
Yeah, what can we do differently this year to fix the bullshit that was last year?
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're at a stepping stone towards being out of this, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the only nice feeling I've had in the last couple of weeks, to be honest. Christmas was cool. Usually I'm a big Christmas guy. This year, it kind of just flew by, came and went, and I was just oh, hey, it's here. Right, sick. Wish that meant something.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, I have hopes. I hope 21 is just a much better time. Just a better collection of 12 months. That would be great.
Yeah, it sucks. It does suck, but the fact that, for me personally, I've had to just work constantly for the latter half of 2020 to the point where just I can't focus on anything because I have no time to do anything other than work, come home, sleep, get up, go back to work, and then just do hours upon hours of bullshit and then deal with customers' bullshit as everyone else does. So it does not give me time to stop and really think about everything because I'm just going so fast throughout the day doing a bunch of different tasks.
Yeah.
really, I guess the only time I get to reflect, like, even if I go to lunch, I'll have that hour to reflect on it, give and take the time it takes for me to drive to get food and come back or whatever. But I'm sure if I stayed at home for the majority of it, I probably would have like lost my mind.
Even in like the my work from home situation, like with the gamer where I'm writing for now, it's like even in the chats people are having, the general chat will be like, hey guys, we need updates on this or this. How's everybody doing though? Like, what's going on? How's everybody's day? And then inevitably we'll get like, oh, it's doing, well, I made breakfast for the kids and I'm doing this, and this person's here, they're interviewing this person. And the next one will be like, oh, just trying to survive. This year sucks. And every day it's just a rehash of us being like, it does suck, and here's why currently.
Yeah.
And every day there's a new list for like what's been terrible. Like, that's the most baffling part, that it's been so bad that every day we find something that makes it worse, and I'm like, it's not healthy. It's so unhealthy, and I just want to be outside with my friends just once ever again, maybe.
And I think about that too, but I also think to the point of like, once it is like 100% back to normal like it was before, I still don't know how much I'll be outside because I wasn't outside that much to begin with.
I mean, yes, to a degree, but like I said, I'm missing the small things of like the restaurants,
right, yeah,
and theaters and things like that. Like, that's really what I'm
after. Because the types of movies we like, be it Star Wars, DC, Marvel, whatever, for a good few years there, it was like one movie a month.
Yeah,
regardless of what it was. So it was like we would leave, like we would have like a fun trip, once a month, if not twice a month, depending on what was coming out. So we actually get to go spend the day and go do a bunch of stuff, and then come home and be like, all right, cool, I got my entertainment for the day. That'll be good for a little bit, and then we'll go back the next month and all that. And not being able to do that does suck, because there was so much that was going to come out this year that I was looking forward to, and it's been pushed to who knows when. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, Disney Plus came through with a lot of that stuff, and at least the first half of 2020, I should be kept preoccupied for a little bit with all of the new Marvel shows that are going to be dropping literally like every week.
Yeah,
they got stuff lined up.
Yeah,
they have stuff lined up for like every month, so I'm like, all right, I'll be set and ready to go for a while.
That'll be nice, especially since I am running out of things to watch, really, like all new stuff that I really care about. But also, I miss also like our bookstore trips and the library and things like that. Those are also like little things that are ticking away at me. But since I've gotten new books, now for Christmas, and I'm planning on ordering some more this month, that also kind of excites me. Being like, if I'm going to be here, I might as well be reading the things I like or watching the things I like. So that is a comforting thought. But man, that first like trip to the bookstore after this is just going to be, it's going to feel like heaven. I'm just go grab a coffee, walk around, and buy like 70 books and not regret a single bit of it. And
I'm not buying 70.
It's going to be fantastic. I am very excited.
It'll be good. I do miss coffee.
Really just those trips of like bookstore, theater, coffee before or after, or whatever, dinner at Steak and Shake, or wherever we decide to go. Those nights were real good, and now it's been, I don't even know how long since we had one of those. Maybe
over a year.
Yeah, maybe since Rise of Skywalker.
Actually, since February. The last movie we saw was Birds of Prey.
We saw that in Murray, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the last movie I saw in theaters was for sure Birds of Prey. And the last full day out was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and that was December, so.
Yeah, and then the last time I actually went out to eat before everything locked down was
fuck, I don't...
March 5th was my birthday. We went to Los.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember the news was still covering it pretty heavily. Like, we knew stuff was starting to, get scary. And then, like, 6 days later, I think was when Kentucky was like, okay, yep, we're going to issue our first lockdown stuff. And I was like, oh, this is getting bad.
Yeah, and then no one listened to it. And now we're here.
Well, I don't think... It's not that no one listened to it, just...
The majority.
A good number, for sure. It does kill me that, like, a lot of the larger cities did, partake, like, did listen. But there's just, even if only, 2% of the population doesn't listen, that 2% is going to mix so far into everyone else that it's just going to be impossible to get rid of anything. That's the real kicker of it all.
Yeah.
Also, politics this year has just been mind-numbingly bad. Like,
I'm not paying attention to it. I got tired of it. It's all just negative. So I'm like, oh, well, yep.
I have no choice but to pay attention to it, so I know how to hope to fix it or what to hope to fix. Like, the moment I tune it out, the moment I'm going to just, like, lose contact with reality and just have no insight to offer anyone, and I can't do that. That's worse than any of the other alternatives to me. Like, I know so many people older than us that did do that, and now I'm like, you're just pointless. Like, you're beyond help. You've been out of the picture for so long that you don't even, like, start to scratch the surface on it. And I refuse to go that way. Like, that's part of the reason why we've been in such a shitty spot this year. But it's just it's crazy how there's, like, nothing good I can pull out of this year. Like, everything has just been overwhelmingly bad.
Oh yeah.
It just
I was gonna say the only good things I can think of. The only things that I can think of that were good were, like, new shows that came out on Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max. That for, like, the time it takes of me watching it, I'm in, like, my happy place. Then as soon as the credits roll, it's back to reality, and I'm like, huh.
Even then, I didn't even watch that much new stuff this year. Well, prior to... I watched a bunch of movies early in the year, but that was...
I'm trying to think of what new stuff I really watched. We just watched Wonder Woman 1984 today.
Mm-hmm.
We got season 2 of The Mandalorian, Haunting of Cry Manor. I mean, you had, like, The Good Place, and I'm pretty sure I was watching Brooklyn through the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it was through the early part of the year. Like, I did watch... I caught up on older stuff because Brooklyn Nine-Nine's been on the air for... 6 years or something now. I don't remember.
Something like that.
Maybe it's about 5. Anyway, yeah. So I did watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the first time this year. Bly Manor, yeah, we watched that. I had something else in mind.
You watched Peanut Butter Falcon finally.
Yeah, that was one of the movies, because we watched at the beginning of the year was all the Oscar stuff that we did for your channel as well.
Yeah, we watched so much stuff. I loved that.
That was a good time.
Because that was January, right?
Yeah.
Because the Oscars were in February.
Yes, we spent all of January.
Yeah.
We watched, well, also part of December as well, because 1917 didn't come out globally, or like.
Oh yeah, it came out in the middle of January.
It was like January or something.
We saw that in theaters too.
Yep.
So good.
It was a great movie.
I need to own that movie.
So yeah, I watched we watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Jojo Rabbit.
Great movie. Yep.
Ford versus Ferrari. I've seen now Parasite and Peanut Butter Falcon.
You saw Fighting with My Family.
Oh yeah, I watched that at Brian's.
What was the other Shia LaBeouf movie?
Honey Boy.
Honey Boy.
Have not.
Did you watch that
yet.
one? Okay.
Which he is under some fire right now, and it doesn't look great for him.
What happened this time?
Accusations of sexual misconduct or assault or something against FKA Twigs, because they dated for a couple of years. And yeah, it seems pretty damning, which is unfortunate. Really hate to see that particularly for Twigs, but also, like, Shia was on the way up. It seemed like he was doing good.
Yeah, I was going to say, he finally kind of, like, he got out of the rut he was in.
Yeah, so to hear that, it's like, that's unfortunate. Just hate to see it. Yeah, otherwise I've rewatched a bunch of stuff. Like,
Oh yeah, I watched Star Wars again.
it's like I rewatched episodes of Psych. Like I watched most of it again. Watched random episodes of How I Met Your Mother as they pop into my mind.
Des was good.
Oh yeah, we did watch Des. That was real good.
Yeah,
Definitely the weirdest thing I watched this year for sure.
It was definitely weird, but I was just because it was just the most off the wall pudding thing. I was just like, oh, okay, serial killer thing, and I was like, oh, it's David Tennant. I might want to check this out.
It turned out to be great. It just for sure was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it was definitely like off the cuff.
I had one other big thing that I watched, but it completely slipped my mind.
I think I got everything that I watched.
Yeah. It was
but now we got
the same time that I watched Peanut Butter Falcon. I watched another movie that night, and it's just completely left me.
I thought it was Fighting for My Family.
No, I saw that like in June or something when I was with Brian.
I know what you're thinking of, but if I sit here and think about it, we'll have 15 minutes of dead air. So
yeah, it's not that important either. It's just it was on the tip of my tongue and it left. I've been playing a bunch of new video games recently because my brother let me family share him with Stadia, so that was cool.
I got so many new games that like for free through because like Epic Games is giving away a bunch of shit for Christmas. I got a bunch of stuff that was like on sale down to like $2. Like everything was like 98% off, and I'm like, bet. And cool. I haven't touched any of them.
I haven't done like a whole lot of like deep diving or anything, but I have started and messed around with Super Hot for the first time. That game's really fun. Baldur's Gate 3, the early access version. The story starts off batshit, just absolutely insane. You just get in, you're like, oh, this is the craziest D&D stuff that you could ever think of. It's just wild. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, the game is still kind of rough because it's not technically going to release until sometime next year. I think it's like August or something. Like they've got pretty much a full year to work on it, and so it's still a little buggy and not quite functional. But
I went back and started playing. I started playing older games that I never had back in the day. So like I was playing through Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
Great game. I still haven't beat that yet. The game has this weird progression stat where like everything gets more difficult as you move through it, but there's no leveling system. So now I'm just at the point where I was like, wow, this game just got significantly more difficult for no reason. Why?
I replayed Arkham Knight.
Yeah, great game.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Got all of those for free as well through Epic Games because they just like to give out a bunch of free shit. So I have a great collection of games on PC now because I got a new PC, and I've touched maybe 2 of them.
Community, that was the other thing that I started.
Oh yeah, Community.
Got addicted to that for about a month.
Because didn't you started that at Brian's, didn't you? And you just watched it for like 2 days straight?
Yeah. We went to go hang out with some friends while I was over there. Because I'd been there for like, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, and our power went out. And so we were just like, hey, can we just come chill for a little bit? Because, like, we can't do anything over here. And they were watching it when we got in the door. I was just like, oh, I have seen episodes of Community. I've never actually like sat down and watched the show, but it is really funny. I've seen bits of everything up to like season 3. And she's like, well, this is season 3. And I was like, oh. Well, now I'm hooked. Now I gotta watch it.
You twisted my arm. I guess I'm in this now.
Really got locked into one there. The Looking for Alaska miniseries came out last year, but I watched it this year. That was really good. Really, other than that, it's just been like writing for me. I've just been doing a lot of consistently throughout the year. I've had like 5 or 6 story ideas that I've been working on. But otherwise, yeah, that's really been like the only other thing. Like, we play video games, with the boys, but that's the only other thing, really.
And I barely even do that.
Yeah, it's like, ever since you started working, you've definitely done a lot less of it.
Like I've played Cold War maybe 4 or 5 times since I got it. Most of it is if I'm not at work, I'm still working. So, my days off, it's just the content that I make for my channels, which, I started a new channel, which took up way more time because now I'm trying to make content for 2 channels at the same time, which is fine. I wanted to do that.
But at least it's working out well.
I was going to say, and that channel has grown significantly more, not significantly more well, but just more well than I expected it to in the amount of time it's been out. I think it's been 2 months now. I don't know if I started at the beginning of November.
If it's not at 2 months, it's got to be pretty close.
I was going to say, because it was either in October or November when I started the channel, and now I just hit 37 subs today. 2 videos have well on the way to 500 views already because they're just drawing tracks in really well, so that's great. And it's a completely Star Wars based channel, Star Wars Complete or Star Wars from a Complete point of view. It's doing well because I know what I'm talking about on that channel, I guess, and people are going to enjoy the content, and I think because I'm sticking to a lot of the books coming out now, I have a lot to look forward to in 2021 as far as TV shows and books go, because up through I think May, we're getting a new Star Wars book every month.
Yeah.
And probably more after that, because I know there's still some like in the later half of the year that are going to be coming out. So they got a lot of that to cover, which means I got to read a whole lot more.
That was probably the biggest like shock to me was coming into this year. I realized like even though I was reading, I wouldn't say often. I was getting back into it, but I wasn't reading like regularly. That when I did start to pick up a schedule of reading, I noticed that I wasn't reading as fast or as intensely as I used to. And it took me a good minute to transition back into being able to do that. So the idea of like a new Star Wars book being out every month, or just the books that I have now that I have to catch up on. For a minute there, that felt daunting, and that's never been something that I've ever struggled with. Before I used to be just a voracious reader, and that was like what I did. But then, when we started talking about like, oh, there's all these Star Wars books that are coming out, and then I have a couple of authors that I keep my eye on that have books coming out next year, and then I've got a shelf full of Star Wars books that I need to read and catch up on. I was just like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, man. There's just too many damn books. Like 13-year-old me would be screaming at me right now. It's like you're weak. Get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Well, that's the thing. Like for me, like it takes about a month for me to read a book, just because one, I don't have the time, and when I do read, I read very slow. Like, Dark Force Rising is the book I'm reading right there, and I should have had that technically finished by last week, but I put it off for a little bit because I was reading like 50 pages a day to get it done, and even reading 50 pages took me like 2 hours. I don't read very fast, so if I decide to just start with all the new stuff coming out, I'll be able to read them as they come out.
Yeah.
And be able to finish it before the next one comes out. This first round's going to be a little tough because Light of the Jedi and A Test of Courage are releasing on the same day.
Yeah.
So that will be a little tough because Light of the Jedi is 400 pages and A Test of Courage is like 293. So.
I've been blessed
but
by
technically,
that.
Technically, I'm already 8 chapters in to Light of the Jedi, so.
Oh, yeah, with the preview pages, yeah.
So that helps.
I've been blessed by a lot of shorter books recently. A lot of the ones that I've been reading out of the last couple of months have only been like 230 or 240 pages. And I'm like, okay, this is manageable. I can like fly through these pretty quickly. But anytime I pick up a longer one, like I think Phasma is like 300 and some odd pages. I'm like,
yeah.
Right. Like this is an investment of my time.
Yeah, that's the worst part is like because the mass market paperbacks of like Star Wars books are like this big, but they're still like 350, 400 pages.
Yeah,
and you're just like, fuck, this is gonna take a minute.
Like I said, my younger self would hate me for sitting there and being like, I don't want to read these last 130 pages tonight because like that would have been an insult to a version of me that's no longer around. Like,
you can do it in 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's like back then I would have just been like 130 pages. Yeah, I can finish that. No big deal. Now I'm like, I have no more brain power left. I'm weak.
Just do it. Just read. It's just you just look at the pages.
I forced myself earlier today. It was like I was getting to the last couple of pages in this. And I was like, I knew I was only like a few pages away from a chapter break. I could feel the rhythm of the story like wrapping up in the chapter.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I really want to make food. And I looked down and I was like, I gotta be less than like 3 or 4 pages away. Like it's gotta be like real quick. I could finish this. And I turned to the page and it wasn't there. Like the end break for the chapter or whatever wasn't there. I was like, okay. Turned the next one and it wasn't there. And I was like, all right, how do you have that much more to say about this one specific thing?
Yeah.
Like, I like this book a lot, but I just, please, I'm hungry. And then I finally did get through it. I was like, okay, cool. I'm done reading for the day, I think. I think my brain is satisfied. But it also might have been, it was 8:30 in the morning when I started reading, so that might have had something to do with it. I don't think I was actually fully awake when I started.
Yeah, I feel that way too, and I'm just like, you just got to get through these 50 pages, or wherever the chapter ends, that's like closest. If it's like, if I'm reading 50, if it's like page 49 is the end of the chapter, that's significant, or 45, or if it goes over like 52 or something like that, like that's your 50 for the day. And sometimes it's like that last chapter, or any chapter really, is like I'm gonna take this, finish this chapter, get something to eat, go to the bathroom, do whatever, come back and finish reading. And it's that same thing as like, okay, this feels like, the chapter started, they went through what they were doing, the conflict occurred, there is a resolve, good ending, but there's like another 20 pages, and I'm like, what the fuck? What are we doing here, man? God damn. It's like, I thought this chapter was good to go, but no, when it's Timothy Zahn, each chapter is like 70 pages.
Yeah, it's also a problem in like high fantasy books as well.
And it's like, have you heard of conflict number 2?
Every time you're like, cool, this is wrapping up nicely. And they're like, and then there was a third story element. And you're like...
Yeah, and you're like, but then they were caught by what? Another... Oh, okay. There's another bad guy, everybody.
Yeah, that used to be my biggest gripe with reading, like, generic fantasy books. I'd be like, cool, I really like where this is going. And then, like, they would just put a pause in the middle of an active story to be like, and then there was this agent from the shadows working against them the whole time, and we're going to spend 45 pages introducing them right now. And I'm like,
That's what was really hard about the Alphabet Squadron books and the Aftermath trilogy, because there was, like, 7 characters. And naturally, in the second book, everybody gets separated, because that's just how stories happen. So you've got 4 different stories going on at the same time, and you have to tell all those stories. So you'll get through the first part, like, all right, that was really good. We go from the next person's perspective, and then the next person's perspective, and then the next person's perspective, all leading towards the same point that you're at. And I'm just like, I know what happened. Just go past that. It's like Groundhog Day. Like, this entire chapter is me reading the same story from a different perspective 6 times.
I think, at least it felt like to me, Empire's End was worse about that than Life Debt. I feel like Life Debt had a few splits, but Empire's End was like, okay, this story's happening, pause. And now this story's happening, pause. And now a third story's happening, pause. Okay, back to story number 1. Cool. And story number 4. And
then the chapter would end, and you would go to an interlude, and you're like, oh my god. And then the interlude would end, and the next chapter doesn't even pick up where you were. It goes to a different character somewhere the fuck else, and you're like...
Why are there 9 different planets being mentioned right now? I'm so
I was like, why are we here? All the characters are over here. Why isn't there more?
Why is mine more?
Why are there more characters?
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass.
I was gonna say, that's why I like, like the YA novels, like Lost Stars, Queen's Shadow, Queen's Peril. It's pretty straightforward. It might break twice because there's like 2 characters they're following, but even then, like, I'm wondering, like, what is Wheel of Time like? There's like, okay, well, this chapter is going to consist of the same story element from 40 characters' perspectives. Buckle up.
The Wheel of Time's not too bad about it. There are a couple of characters there, but it's pretty centralized. Game of Thrones is the worst offender of that. Because most of the time, Martin doesn't tell the same story again. Like, there are some times where, like, you'll go back in time and see another character's perspective for it.
Mm-hmm.
But more or less, like, most of them would be like, it's on the same day, but they're in different places. And so you're like, cool, we're leading up to like a battle or something. And then on the other side of the country, it's like, that morning. And you're like, all right, dude, I gotta... Okay.
Yeah, let's do it again.
And then you have like 3 characters worth of that. Just like, and that morning, and that morning, and that morning. Okay, can we go back to the battle now? And then the battle's like intense and awesome. And you're like, yeah, sick. And then they just like skip over like the remaining part of it. They're like, and they won, cool, sick, moving on. And you're like, oh,
okay.
And This is going fast. Oh, damn it, we're in somebody's morning again.
It's like with our book that we're writing, like I've tried so hard, I don't think I've actually had to do it, but like avoid telling the same time frame of a story. I suppose I have in some cases, but it's just like different story arcs that just happen to happen at the same time. But you never like quite understand that they're happening at the same time. It'd be like, Connor and Don are out doing this thing. Meanwhile, Garen's doing this. So you get to see both of what was happening. It was probably happening at the same time, but they're not necessarily correlating to the same event at the end of the story.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of the stuff that I wrote that's like, it's definitely happening simultaneously to another thing, but they're not trying to...
They're not leading to the same point where everyone's going to converge on each other.
Yeah, I think there is one section where it does, but it's like very brief.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think that's necessarily bad in practice. It's just if you do it too much.
Yeah, because I don't really care. It's like, Connor and Don were out running around in the desert. Meanwhile, Xander was paragliding just above them, and he could see what he was doing, but he knew where he was going. Meanwhile, Garen's underground, and you're like, okay.
What's happening? Yeah,
and then, you finally get to the point where everyone's converging, and it's just like that Spider-Man meme. Everyone's just like, aha! And you're like, I already know. I just go, man.
I've heard this 3 times.
I've seen what happens, and then something like drastic happens. You're like, I didn't see that one. Hold on, go back. Tell me someone else's perspective.
Hold on, the other perspectives were safer. I liked that.
Yeah, fuck, go back.
Yeah, I think there's one moment like after, probably at like the first third of our book, where like some stuff separates out and the characters go their own ways or whatever, and you're definitely telling stories that are happening simultaneously. They don't like lead back to each other though until well after. They're definitely their own contained different stories. It's just like their end point then becomes the same once they reunite.
Right.
But it's not like telling the story that way of being like, and while this was happening, this was happening. Now it's like, now because this happened, now this is happening.
Yeah.
And we're all coming back together. And I think that's the better way to do that instead of being like, and here's the same thing from 9 different people's perspectives and enjoy. That's not a book. That's not a story. That's just...
The worst one is like when there are a bunch of characters in a bar.
Yeah.
And it's like a fight breaks out in the bar. Now you get to see what everyone was thinking about the fight. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck, to be honest with you.
It can always be done well. Like, that thing can always be pulled off correctly. But it's done so many times now that I am a little tired of seeing that.
Yeah.
I think it's also tough, like, because I like tabletop games and D&D and things like that. You do experience a little bit of that inside of those kinds of games. So maybe that's why I'm a little jaded to it. It's just because like I do experience it or, get that perspective pretty regularly. So maybe the average reader or writer hasn't seen it as many times as I have, but like when you're this nerdy, yeah, you've seen it a lot. Like it's happened a bunch.
And then meanwhile, The Mandalorian didn't go through that, but The Mandalorian got the D&D MMO effect. I'm going to help you, but you got to do this for me first. I'm going to help you, but you got to do this for me first. I'm going to help you, but you got to do this for me first.
Oh, yeah, The Mandalorian is mostly just side quests.
Yeah, I was going to say, a majority of it was just side quest, which is why I was shocked toward the end of Season 2 after he was like, where Ahsoka's like, go to Tython. And I was like, all right, time for a side quest. And then Tython the week after that. Nope, they just went straight the fuck to it. And I was like, oh, okay. They've changed it up a little bit.
A little bit of a remix. Cool.
Yeah, run that by me again? Oh, okay, we're there. We're actually... This main story? Really? All right, main quest. Let's do it.
I think
Then they hit us with the side quest.
Yeah, I think they knew they were kind of like running out of time a little bit in that regard. I think like in the story structure, you need some kind of sense of urgency because if you had another side story there, it starts to feel like, okay, maybe it's just not even a threat. Like maybe we don't have to worry about it. But then the side quest episode that came after that, at least is still like 95% connected to the main storyline. Like it's not him having to do someone a favor. It's just like he has to do something else before.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like completely pointless.
Yeah, whereas like that effect that like a lot of shows do end up getting it as well. A lot of like adventure shows, like oh yes, I'll take you to see the wizard, but first we have to harvest grain. And you're like, okay, this is gonna be the most filler, stupid ass bullshit I've ever seen in my life. But when you only have 8 episodes a season, like The Mandalorian, it's like, you can only get like one of those episodes a season, or else you're running across a very thin line.
Yeah, like episode 2 was big filler.
It definitely it does character development well. Like that's what those episodes are meant for. They're meant to just kind of give you personality. But yeah, like as far as just the quest itself, like why? What? This didn't need to happen.
Say, because like even all the other episodes that aren't necessarily like directly tied to the main story still have a big main story payoff. You know, like the episode that Carl Weathers directed, where he goes back to Navarro and they end up at the Imperial compound.
Yeah,
like it is basically kind of filler. They're like, "Hey, I need my ship to be repaired." And they're like, "Hey, we got some shit going down. We might need your help for it." And he's like, "I don't know if I want to do that." And he's like, "Please, we need your help." And he's like, "All right, you twisted my arm here." But that at the end of that, we get to see a lot of that cloning stuff that was going on and a lot of the bigger picture of what the Empire might be up to. Whereas, like the Ice Spider episode, like they're just left floating through space, and you're just like, all right, cool, the end, I guess. That was cool. I don't want to put my feet on the ground right now. My skin's crawling a little bit.
The Navarro one, I think it subverts your expectation that way, because it does end up becoming a pretty important story episode for the season. Like, without that episode, a lot of it makes less sense.
Right.
So, like, in that regard, yeah, like, it definitely starts off with the premise of, like, oh, this is just going to be us, like, hanging out with our old friends again. And then in the last 15 minutes, like, and we made it relevant. Don't worry. Okay, cool. We're all on the same page. Like, it's fine. Which was a nice surprise. I really thought we were going to get out of that base and not really have anything happen to, like, push us forward.
Yeah.
But thankfully, you got that little, like, cloning bit, and you start to figure out, you know, the characters need to know what the audience knows. And so, you know, he finds out that Gideon's alive and all that. So it's like, it all tied back in nicely. But yeah, I think The Mandalorian did kind of run a little close to that edge this season of being like, hey, we have all this stuff going on, but we're not going to address any of it. Boba was here for a few seconds, and then he wasn't. And you're like, okay, this is starting to get a little annoying. And then obviously, like, I'm very satisfied with the way that it all came together.
Right.
But just like week to week in that format, you're like, if they have another episode where they're just not doing anything, I'm gonna be a little concerned.
Yeah, and now that season 3 got pushed to 2022, I'm interested to see what's gonna happen, because we're gonna get the Book of Boba Fett instead.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
It will be nice to see kind of a shake-up a little bit to have something new next December with the Book of Boba Fett, just to have like a new thing,
something a little different, right? Yeah, and I think that's going to be a good way to start getting everyone into the habit of like seeing a bunch of new Star Wars shows, since 13 of them were announced.
Yeah, and it would.
And I know that's going to be.
It would surprise me if all of them run simultaneously with each other. Like, I'm sure some of them will like run very short length. You know, we'll get like 1 or 2 seasons of them, and then we'll move on to something else. That
because I know
like the smartest thing for me.
I think 2 or 3 of them are supposed to be event series, and to my understanding, that just means it's 1 season.
Yeah, like, I think we'll probably get some like mini-series style content, and
yeah, because I know Ahsoka, Kenobi, and Lando are all supposed to be event series. So I'm like, okay, cool, just like some 1 season stories that just tell a better story. Like, I'm down for that. You know, stuff that does not need to go beyond 3 or 4 seasons. I'm really excited for Rogue Squadron, directed by Patty Jenkins, who just confirmed Wonder Woman 3 not a day after 1984 came out. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, okay, nice. I'm with it.
And then it's back to everyone's like, why are they making Wonder Woman 3 already? Wonder Woman 2 was terrible, and honestly, we just watched it. It's not bad. I don't know why people are hating on it. I have questions, sure, but every movie leaves me with questions.
Yeah, it's not my favorite movie ever, but it's not terrible.
Say, when you look at the amount of rough stuff that DC has been through, Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984 are not on that list.
Yeah, they're both pretty good. And from my perspective, I've seen a lot more positive stuff about it. It just was lost a little bit to the void, because like Soul came out the same weekend. So like that, there was a whole conversation about which one was, you know, going to perform better, and like that was a lot of the talk of the weekend. And but most of my friends that really care about comic book movies and aren't just casual watchers are pretty much all shared the same opinion. Like, no, it's good. Like, it may not be the best movie ever, but like it's pretty solid. And
Yeah,
watching
I'd watch it again.
Yeah, watching it was a little goofy. Like I will say that like it's not as serious as the first one in a lot of ways. And the beginning is straight up just an action comedy from the '80s. Like it doesn't even attempt to take itself seriously.
It's easily like a Wonder Woman comic from the '80s. Like you open right in the middle of the action.
Yeah, it's not trying to take itself seriously at all. Like look at the facial expressions on every one of those actors from the beginning sequence, and you can tell that
they're just having a good time.
Yeah, it's just fun. So I can see where that's not going to work for some people, but yeah, it's, pretty much all my friends are in agreement. It's like, yeah, it's fine. Like,
yeah,
would have been a good time in the theater. Would have walked out happy.
I'm very interested to see what everyone has to say once the Snyder Cut starts up here soon. I think. Is it supposed to start in January?
I don't remember.
I'm going to look that up real quick because I don't actually know. All I know is it's 2021. I don't know if there was any.
I know I saw Snyder tweeted out a picture of Gal in the movie.
So the first episode's initial release date is March of 2021. So.
Oh, that's right.
Which I was thinking, I feel like March is in my head for some reason. I don't know why. So.
I remember that now.
That'll be fun.
That'll be interesting, yeah.
Say, and in between now and then, we'll have WandaVision.
Yep.
Here in a couple weeks, and then I can't remember what show is coming on after that.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Is that the next one?
Pretty sure.
Okay, because I know there's like one every month through Black Widow's release. So.
Yeah, I think Loki is the last of the Marvel shows.
Yeah, Loki is in May.
Yeah.
I believe. So, and I mean, that tracks. Loki was supposed to be released spring of this year, but now it's next year, so they're keeping the spring part.
WandaVision looks batshit, and I am excited for
WandaVision, I'm very excited for.
I know it's not going to work for a lot of people. I can see it now that, like, even in the trailers, it's going to be too much for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But I like weird stuff. Like I want to see how far they're willing to kind of push the buttons with the MCU, and this seems delightfully comic book like. And yeah,
I'm wondering how many seasons all of these shows are going to have, or if they're all going to just be a limited series. Because I know at least Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be, I think it's only 6 episodes, but they're like apparently budget heavy 6 episodes. And, I mean, I guess I could see maybe WandaVision getting another season. I don't know how the first season's supposed to work, so. Loki for sure could get as many as it wanted because of how they're dealing with time.
Yeah, I think there's an idea of, like, purpose with these shows. Like, if they're using WandaVision to set up the next set of movies, like it seems like they are.
Yeah.
Then maybe it does just live the one season, and like it's just a transition into the new period of Marvel. But it wouldn't surprise me if they lean on a couple of them and don't develop new ones for a little bit. Like they let these guys run a couple of seasons. That would be the smartest move to me. I think you put stock in a couple of them, let them run for a season or two, and let that be the kind of first wave of the new stuff. Just kind of let that exist on its own. As we know, we're going to get Shang-Chi and what's the
Eternals?
The Eternals. I was thinking the Immortals for some reason. Oh, that's a very different thing.
Yeah, we got Shang-Chi's coming out. Immortal. Now you got me saying it. The Eternals. Way later down the line, we've got Fantastic Four coming.
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther 2. I'm extremely excited for the new Doctor Strange movie now that it ties in with WandaVision and the new Spider-Man. Which Spider-Man's slated for December of 2021.
Yeah.
So.
I am excited to see what they do with the Multiverse of Madness situation, but I also don't want to just like pile up hope for it, because in reality, if I was the one creating the movie, I think it would set up the events of, you know, the weirder parts of the MCU going forward. Like we're gonna have to fit in the X-Men and Fantastic Four, but I would probably do it very subtly if I was the writers. Like I wouldn't hinge the entire thing on the Doctor Strange movie, and I think that's probably what we're going for. But the internet seems to be settled like this is gonna be like the craziest, biggest thing ever, and I'm like, That's not really the MCU style, though. Like, I guess we'll see if they're trying like a bold new direction or something for these next set of movies, but it seems like it'll be like one very obvious change, and then the more subtle stuff will start unveiling itself in the next, however many movies. And I'm like, that seems more reasonable to me.
I think, if anything, it's going to be a bigger payoff in Spider-Man 3. And while there are going to be attached to the Multiverse of Madness and WandaVision, I think the show and the new Doctor Strange movie are going to play more into Spider-Man, which is going to be odd because Spider-Man comes out before Doctor Strange. So I don't know how the whole timeline is supposed to work. It could be a case where, like, in the timeline, Doctor Strange happens before Spider-Man, but we're going to get to see what Spider-Man happens with what Spider-Man deals with before Doctor Strange. But I mean, because that's something that Marvel does constantly.
Yeah, they do kind of put you in.
So right before Endgame comes out, we got Captain Marvel, which takes place in the 90s. So
and the Guardians movies are pretty much completely disconnected up until the end credits of Guardians 2.
And Captain America.
Captain America, technically, the second movie just jumps back like hella far.
Yeah, because you're like, it's Iron Man came out, and then the Incredible Hulk, and then Captain America happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Captain America's like, all right, cool, the next Avenger, and it's fucking 1940 or whatever.
Yeah. Which I kind of underappreciated that movie. Like, going back and watching it now, I like it a lot more than I did when I first saw it.
I'm still not a big Captain America fan, but I do enjoy it. And after I finally got to finish Winter Soldier, because it took me literally 3 times to try to watch it because I fell asleep the first 2 times. The final fight between him and the Winter Soldier is okay. I don't know. The ending of Winter Soldier, I was just like, meh.
I think Winter Soldier is great because it is like the espionage movie that I think the MCU needed to make Captain America stand out on his own. Because he got overshadowed 100% by Tony. Like,
and I really loved the fact that it was like I can't trust anybody because like everyone was like suddenly he's like, hey, he's public enemy number 1, go kill that guy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty great.
For him to have his own like standout role and like really kind of nail it, because Chris Evans is a great Captain America. For him to have a movie that really just stuck and landed, I think was super big for the MCU and like for its staying power. And to set up something like Infinity War or Endgame where the stakes are so high and like you need a movie like that to land. And Iron Man 1 was enough for Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark as a character. But I feel like up until Winter Soldier, Cap was still trying to like really land solid because the first movie's good. But it's in Winter Soldier where you're like, oh, this character like kicks ass. Like this character's like, he's got staying power for a reason. He's been a popular symbol of American comics for this long for a reason. I think that kind of hit really helps set everything up. And then like Homecoming being such a big movie, obviously Spider-Man's like one of the most beloved characters ever, but for him to have like a guaranteed hit also adds some weight to like the future of the franchise and why another moment in Infinity War hits like incredibly hard. Like you have to have these like individual successes for the whole thing to work. Mm-hmm. And up until Winter Soldier, like Marvel was on a good roll, but like they hadn't really knocked out like a great film yet. Like as far as like critically went, like I think they were all very good, but they needed the one to be like, oh, like we have to start taking these much more serious than we were. And Winter Soldier opened up the conversation, and then later down the line, obviously Black Panther, Infinity War. We had a string of a couple of good ones, and really started kind of revisiting that conversation. But I think Winter Soldier definitely stepped in that direction first. And while it's not my favorite movie of the bunch, like I still think it's very, very good.
Yeah, and people like forget about that. Like Marvel had some pretty rough spots there, like Iron Man. Some people say Iron Man 2. I liked it, but Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, I think, has only gotten disliked like retroactively because I feel like the summer that it came out, all of my friends loved it. Like all of the people I talked to about it, like really enjoyed it. But now on the internet, when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, it's the worst movie ever," and I'm like, "Well, that's just that's just not true. I've seen plenty of worse movies. Like, if you think it's the worst movie ever, you just haven't seen enough movies. Plain simple.
I've seen some tough ones.
I've seen some real bad ones.
You ever seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Oof.
Yeah. You ever seen The Room?
Yeah, House 2, the second story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, there's a bunch of like C-rated horror movies that are so much worse than Age of Ultron. Like, that doesn't even come close.
Yeah,
like,
Hostel.
Hostel doesn't even scrape the bottom 100. Like, I've seen some.
Yeah,
really
Saw 17 or whatever.
Yes.
Any of the Purge movies.
Even the Purge, I would take all of those movies above some of these like low tier, like nearly self-made horror movies that I've seen over the years. Like, some
you ever seen
terrible.
You ever seen The Skeleton Man?
I don't think I have.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Quick premise is like the spirit of a Native American rises from the grave to attack someone that's like, they're like building a company on their land or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he looks like the Grim Reaper. So it's just a skeleton in a hood. And it's, at one point he shoots a pilot out of a helicopter with a bow and arrow. But it's like the cheesiest looking thing ever. Like, it's bad. I'll show you a trailer later. It's so god awful. And then anything that sci-fi makes.
I don't remember the name of the movie, but there's a really bad horror movie. It's on one of the streaming services still. I remember seeing it the other day. But I watched it in like 2012, and there's a moment where a body is supposed to go like flying down a hallway, but they clearly like couldn't do that. Like, they couldn't just throw somebody, and so they use like a stunt dummy, and you can clearly tell that this thing was not set up correctly because it goes flying and like its arms do like this on the way out, and it's like head's turned the wrong way, and I'm like, that was just, you could not have made that look worse if you had tried. Like, that was, oh boy. And like the bottom half of it's not functional either. It just looks like his pants are just like flopping and like his legs aren't in it. I'm like, I hate this.
I mean, it's like literally anything that sci-fi makes now, because I think sci-fi got to that point where like they spent I think sci-fi does not get a yearly budget. Sci-fi got a budget when the channel was created and said, here you go.
Make it last.
And they used so much of it to make like more better films than they have now. Mostly went towards mechanical sharks. And now they're left with a bunch of like really bad CGI, to the point where I truly think sci-fi just makes films to be objectively bad.
Yeah, I mean, sci-fi's glory days are definitely behind them.
Say they had a movie that starred Jamie Kennedy for a small minute, where like these people were trapped on a beach because the sand was carnivorous. Like, if your skin touched the ground, it like the sand ate you. Yeah, so dumb. I'm like, okay.
I'll always thank sci-fi for airing Stargate SG-1. Like, that was like my childhood. Yeah. Like, can't replace those memories, but yeah, so their movies have always been terrible. Like, just so bad.
And I think that's the point now. They're at that stage where it's just like, yep, it's supposed to be bad. But I mean, like, they had like sci-fi had some good things. Didn't they have Warehouse 13?
Yes, I think so. Like Eureka,
that was okay.
Warehouse 13.
I was gonna say, and Eureka was another one. That was it. That's all they had.
Heroes was on Sci-Fi, wasn't it?
If it was, I never saw Heroes.
I saw it while it was streaming. I didn't watch it while it was on. But
wasn't it supposed to be DC related or something? Or they tied it into DC at one point? Something?
Not that I remember, but I watched it forever ago, so I could have just been... It could be very clear that they did, and I've just completely forgotten about it, because it's been like 10 years.
Or Firefly. Did they have Firefly?
I think so, but I never watched
it. It sounds like something they would have. It's like the one good thing they have, and then it just died.
Pretty sure ECW, the wrestling show, aired on Sci-Fi for like a year as well. That was weird.
Hell yeah.
When WWE like fully bought ECW, I'm pretty sure it was like Raw was on USA, I think. Yeah, I think it's Raw was on USA, SmackDown was on like TBS, and then ECW was on Sci-Fi. It's like, I have no idea why this happened, but all right, cool.
Yeah, that tracks. That sounds like something sci-fi. It was like, we have no original stuff coming out. Buy someone else's real quick. How much is in the budget? $10?
Yeah, it's truly some mind-boggling decisions being made. That's the goal for 2021. Let's put sci-fi back on top.
Good luck with that. I think everything that sci-fi wanted to do is now being done by the History Channel after midnight.
Aliens.
The truth about World War II. Aliens.
No one. Absolutely nobody. The History Channel after 2 in the morning. All of our presidents are reptiles.
Literally, and you're like,
Hold on.
The Pentagon takes off after midnight and flies through this. Yo, I bet that'd be a great theory. The Pentagon is actually like an alien flying saucer. I'm gonna make a movie about that. And make thousands.
Thousands.
I'm gonna make hundreds.
I'm going to make at least $1.
I'm gonna make something off of it.
Oh God, yeah. I remember when I stumbled into that phenomenon, like middle school or whatever, starting to find like the weird side of the History Channel and being like,
but what if?
I've seen a lot of accurate stuff on the History Channel.
I don't think they'd lie to me yet, right?
But what is this? Like, I just have a hard time believing that, like, all of the great, like, names in history were secretly aliens or, like, eels or whatever that they want me to believe in this particular show. I don't know what's happening.
They're all plants.
They're just 4 penguins in a trench coat.
Exactly.
I wonder how that got there. I would love to do the history on that. Like, how the hell we settled on putting all of these weird alien conspiracy shows, or like...
They probably assumed that anyone that was going to watch it would be people like us that go to bed at 5 in the morning and wake up at like 4 in the afternoon, so we would be the only ones well awake to get the viewing numbers they needed to keep it afloat after midnight.
They're like, the college kids are going to be so high at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, they're like, bro, but what if though?
They'll tell all of their college friends, but they won't speak about it to their parents, and so secretly we could just keep airing all the educational material and these shows on the same network.
Roswell was fake. Like, it doesn't even... The place Roswell is not real. Was Roswell a sci-fi show?
It's so old that I actually have no clue.
It's a good show.
Yeah, like, I remember it being on air, or at least the reruns. I don't actually know when it, like, fully aired, but I couldn't tell you.
Say, they showed the aliens, like, once.
I keep seeing a bunch of X-Files content on my, like, Twitter feed recently, and I'm like...
That was FX, right?
Yeah. I was just like, wow, the X-Files, what a legacy. Like, that and Lost always appear on my timeline, like, once a week, and I'm like,
Lost.
People are still talking about it. I'm like...
I've seen maybe like 5 episodes of the X-Files. It's okay. I don't understand enough of the main premise for me to probably go back and enjoy it. I probably would like it if I went and tried to, like, let's go watch all 30 seasons of the X-Files.
It's really just a police procedural, but for aliens. Like, it's really all it is. Instead of being like a CSI kind of thing, it's just based around aliens.
I remember the only episode that I really remember is the I can't remember any of the names, but I think it was from season 3. It was when one of the baseball players on an African American team was actually like an alien.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one.
So I tweeted the other day, it was like, just every episode of the X-Files, like, this woman was brutally stabbed to death, and there doesn't seem to be any trace of another human being around. An agent from the X-Files show. Have you heard of the knife alien?
The knife alien.
It's like every time, like, yes, vicious known killer, the knife alien. And he's like, yeah, no, this tracks. Every one of them was like, they had a stupid thing, like, yes, Mr. Rope Tails, and you're like, okay, like, this is...
Mr. Rope Tails.
Every time, it's like, this guy was hung to death, but we can't figure out. It doesn't seem to be a suicide, and it's not a murder, we don't think, unless it was the rope alien. And you're like, God damn it, it was the rope alien. Now we gotta find him. Gotta bring that damn alien to justice.
That's literally what's gonna happen in the fan-made sequel to the Mothman Prophecies.
It's gotta be an alien.
It was Indrid Cole Jr.
Just being unmasked by the Scooby-Doo gang.
Weenie Hut Juniors.
The Mothman meets Mystery Inc.
They would die.
Would they, though?
I don't know, actually.
They've survived some shit, is all I'm saying.
They have survived real zombies, real witches, real aliens, you know? Also, a cyber attack from a real electrical force.
You see what I'm saying?
And then some.
And then, like, the whatever weird magical beast that the Scrappy summoned in the second movie, like... You know,
yeah.
You know?
And the Ghoul School.
Ghoul School, for sure. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
They met John Cena.
They did. And they met Johnny Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
That was a cool one.
They've been through some shit, man. I think they could take him.
So who wins then? Kevin from Home Alone? Or the Mystery Machine Gang?
Oh, I've got Mystery Inc. by a long shot.
Mystery Inc. beating Kevin?
Yep. Only because I feel like part of the party would be like, okay, we have to find him. We have to get after him. And then Shaggy and Scooby would be like, let's go eat all of his food. And it's like, there you go. Starve him out.
Fair.
It's like, I'm pretty confident they'd win. They wouldn't even be chasing him down. They'd just be like, hey, man, we're raiding your refrigerator, so if you don't want to starve to death, you should, like, join us. It's an effective way to win somebody.
Very effective.
Yeah, it seems like an appropriately dumb place to end the podcast. Yeah,
that's typically how it goes around here. You gotta ask a dumb question to get it done, and yeah, it was a good episode too. It was a fun one. You know, we're gonna be in 2021 here in a couple hours, so hope that the last bit of 2020 is at least tolerable for everyone. Please, for the love of fuck God, Allah, whatever you believe in, if you're going out tonight, please do not drink and drive. All right. Call someone, have someone DD. Don't be stupid. And let's just hope 2021 is moderately okay.
Let's hope it's
I'm
better
asking
than
for.
this.
I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for like lukewarm milk, moderately okay at this point.
It's like it. Yeah, like the bar has been set at like dirt water, so like as long as you're, you know,
if we can upgrade to toilet water.
Anything's better, honestly. Like
anything's better.
I'm so tired of it. But yeah, this has been maybe next year.
Maybe next year. It's a podcast. We might see you in 2022. We don't know.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, that's how we do things here. So maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe we won't. We don't know. Maybe another hiatus. It's just how it goes around here. But this is it, and that is the show. Cue end credits.
And now you're going to have to actually make end credits.
Yep. Mm-hmm.